Thank you. We'll go ahead and move to agenda item number 2, review of the Physical Therapy Board of California. With us this morning, we have Katerina Ellaby, who's the president, Alicia Rabina Amen, vice president, Jason Kaiser, the executive officer. If you could please join us. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Please proceed.
Good morning, Chairman Jerry Hill, Chairman Ruli Salas, committee members. We are pleased to be here today for our sunset hearing. My name is Katerina Ellaby, board president and public member. Joining me today is Jason Kaiser, the executive officer, and Alicia Rabina Amen, our vice president. The mission of the Physical Therapy Board is to protect consumers from incompetent, unprofessional, and fraudulent practice through regulation of practitioners. Specifically, the Physical Therapy Board administers the licensing and enforcement programs for physical therapists, physical therapist assistants, and unlicensed physical therapy aides. Regulation of the practice of physical therapy began in 1958 when the legislature passed the Physical Therapy Practice Act. Initially, the Practice Act established the Physical Therapy Examining Committee as a committee under the Medical Board of California. Between 1971 and 1996, amendments to the Practice Act shifted regulatory responsibility over physical therapy away from the Medical Board to the committee and eventually renamed and converted the committee into its own board. The board is comprised of 7 members, 4 practitioners and 3 public members. The governor appoints 5 members in total, all 4 professional members and 1 of the public members. The Senate Rules Committee and the Assembly Speaker each appoint 1 public member each. Currently, there are no vacancies. As of fiscal year 15-16, the Physical Therapy Board regulates approximately 31,000 physical therapists and 6,700 physical therapy assistants. The board's budget is just over $4 million, and it has approximately 4 months of reserves in its fund. I'll be giving the response to the issue item number 1 regarding the statutory fee increase. Currently, we are at statutory caps as of December 26, 2016. This is a concern for us for the following reasons. The board may need to develop examinations. Our jurisprudence exam needs to be updated, and should a need arise, we may need to develop a national exam. If so, it would be emergent and would need to be addressed immediately. In addition, our reserves are still relatively low with only 4 months in our fund. Although projections are positive, there may be unforeseen litigation that would be a strain on resources. Thirdly, the board is planning to move to a larger office space in the near future, as we are currently at capacity in our current office. We want to be clear that we're not planning on increasing fees. We are simply asking the legislature to consider increasing our statutory caps because we don't know what we don't know. Although there is no immediate need to raise fees, the board is trying to be proactive and prepare for a rainy day. This approach is proactive and will allow us to plan for the future in a fiscally responsible manner. And with that, I'll hand it over to our executive officer, Jason Kaiser, to address the next issue regarding Breeze.
Good morning, Chairman Hill, Chairman Salas, committee members. Pardon my voice, I'm a little under this beautiful weather at the moment. I've been asked to provide an answer in regards to item number 10 of the committee's background paper titled, "Is the PTBC concerned about ongoing costs and staff redirection for Breeze?" In short, yes, we are. However, I've been with the PTBC since 2009, just long enough to become familiar with the board's legacy systems, the Consumer Affairs System, better known as CAS, the Applicant Tracking System, better known as ATS, and it was clear early in my state career that the databases we were using were in dire need of modernization. In January of 2016, the PTBC went live with that modernization with Breeze. My experience with Breeze started much earlier than that. In 2010, I was assigned to a project to map out our business processes for a new database system that would replace our legacy systems. I worked on that project anywhere from 10 to 20 hours a week for almost 2 years. In 2012, I became the executive officer of this board, and I was then tasked with assigning staff to the same project that I had joined in 2010. It was clear that we needed real expertise from our board to help guide the design and development of this project. We chose 2 subject matter experts from each unit, applications, licenses, enforcement, as well as designating a single point of contact, or SPOC. For the next couple of years, these SMEs, our SPOC, and practically every other member of our staff, to some extent, worked on creating what we now know as Breeze. It was a long, hard road, and it was challenging to maintain our mandate of consumer protection and licensing, all the while keeping up with this juggernaut project. But we did it. We went live in January 19th of 2016 with very little fanfare or controversy. Was it perfect? Not by any means. But as we've learned from this experience, staff still works to this day on improving Breeze for all, staff and stakeholders alike. And we will continue into the future. Every day we're exposed to the product that is Breeze, we realize a little bit more of its potential. Hindsight being 20/20, we did not have the advantage of knowing what we did not know. In regards to cost, Breeze was expensive, and as it should have been. CAS and ATS were expensive, but Breeze is an investment. We understand that costs will continue from year to year. For the Physical Therapy Board of California, we will make every attempt to see to it that our investments' dividends outweigh those costs. In regards to staffing, while we would have liked to have designated a position or positions to handle Breeze, given the time and the project's imminency, it was not feasible. We would have had to have trained those new positions in either the product itself, the business processes, or best case scenario, both. Again, something that we could not have known. Now, moving forward, Breeze is still very much part of our daily work. Every week, approximately 3 to 5 staff are working anywhere from 10 to 40 hours to help improve Breeze through requests for change or work authorization requests with the Department of Consumer Affairs Change Control Board. Now that we are comfortable with Breeze product, this is very much a necessary process as we now have the expertise and knowledge to fix what we didn't know. Having said that, today, we do believe that the Physical Therapy Board would benefit from having a designated position to handle Breeze and the board's other IT needs. This would allow for better coordination of our existing resources and also ensure that our changes are handled in a timely manner. We see Breeze as an asset and will bend it to our liking. Who knows? You may see a Breeze mobile app in the future. Thank you for allowing me this time. I'd like to express my appreciation to my staff as well as DCA staffs in helping us turn Breeze into a success for this board. Unless you have any other questions, I'll hand over to Ms. Alicia Rubina. Amen.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman Salas, Chairman Hill, and committee members. And thank you all for your public service and for the opportunity to testify before you today. My name is Alicia Rubina Amen, and I've been a professional member of the PTBC board since February 2014. This morning I'm going to discuss issue number 15 under Edits to the Practice Act, which asks, should the Practice Act be amended to change the PTBC's ratio of public members to professional members? There's been much thought and discussion about board composition and the potential for anti-competitive decisions, especially since the U.S. Supreme Court's decision in the case of the North Carolina Board of Dental Examiners versus the Federal Trade Commission, FTC. While attempting to balance the boards with a public member majority may enhance consumer perspective of antitrust protection, the FTC guidance suggested that a board with even just one professional member could still be a controlling majority, as it is not uncommon for public members to defer to professional members on matters even outside of practice issues, such as administration of the board. Given the North Carolina case and decision, we board members of the PTBC understand why the legislature might be considering such a change to the Practice Act. This board, however, does not feel that this change is necessary, and please allow me to explain why. Just as a reminder, our board is made up of 3 public members and 4 professional members. During my 3 years of service on this board, I have not seen one example of a professional member using his or her position to drive a decision. It's my belief that if a professional member tried such a thing, the other professional and public members would be quick to rein that member in. I've witnessed only positive contributions from the professional members who sit on this board. And as a professional board member myself, I've seen firsthand the benefits of a board that consists of 4 professional members who come from diverse work settings. And one of the areas where professional members bring added enhancement is during case deliberation, where we can each apply our various workplace experiences to a licensee's case in order to contribute to a fair decision, all the while still honoring our consumer protection mandate. I feel very grateful and blessed for the PTBC board members who came before me and engraved the culture of consumer protection to be first and foremost the focus of our existence and decisions. Yes, the PTBC has other functions, such as testing and licensing and other things, but it is our mandate to protect consumers that is always at the forefront of our minds of our board members. Because we clearly understand our purpose, we PTBC board members feel that each one of us is a public member. I would even issue a challenge to anyone who is willing to take a look at one of our board meetings and see if you can tell which members are public and which are professional. I think you'd have a hard time trying to figure it out. And since this culture has been in place for years, before most of us current board members were appointed, opinions and responsibilities are shared freely and openly among us. I think our board president, Ms. Ellaby, and board members Mr. TJ Watkins and Ms. Tanya McMillian, who are all public members, would agree that any notion of a turf war is non-existent within the PTBC board. And so it is for these reasons that this board has no concern with changing the board composition. We do, however, think that perhaps all boards should be looked at individually in order to determine each board's history and liability on a board-by-board basis. Once again, thank you for your service and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Thank you guys for each of your testimonies and for addressing each of the issues. Perhaps we'll just go in order. So Ms. Ellaby, you had talked about the statutory fee cap. So if I understand correctly, you're not seeking a fee increase at this time, but an increase in the caps for unforeseeable maybe costs in the future.
That's correct.
Right. Then you also stated that you're going to be moving from your current building to a bigger building.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Okay. Does that mean more staff and then maybe more an increase in just your overall budget?
Well, we're currently going through a restructure, which would add additional staff positions to our board, and so we want to make sure we have space for those additional positions.
Got it. And that's currently under the current budget, the way it's outlined now, or? Got it. Okay. I think that's my question on, did you have a question on item number one?
Not on item number one, no.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Let's move on to issue number 10. The breeze. Breeze is a very popular subject here in the legislature.
I understand that.
And it seems you guys have been intricately part of the entire process. But, you know, you said you've lost dedicated breeze staff, but you're still working with, I'm sorry, just kind of help me understand that relationship, because it seemed like the board had a lot of members and a lot of hours.
Yes.
Pre-Breeze, and then now that we've launched Breeze 2.0, what does that mean for your staffing levels, and what kind of benefits are you really reaping from that? It didn't seem like with Breeze 1 it was very much, but now maybe with Breeze 2, maybe that's increased or not, but if you could just comment on that, please.
Sure. Well, absolutely. The idea of having dedicated Breeze staff would come very early in the project, meaning that we would seek position authority to hire someone specific to represent the Breeze project itself. We did not have that advantage, so we had to disseminate that work amongst our existing staff through our subject matter experts. And so while they had already, you know, a full plate of work for them on a day-to-day basis, they now were taking on participation in this larger project that is Breeze. And 5 years down the line, we still are. And so there's a certain beauty to that system, though, because those subject matter experts, now understanding the product itself, can realize efficiencies and design new implements to put into the project itself, create new efficiencies for both stakeholders and for staff. But today, if there was a coordinator on my staff that was specific to Breeze and had nothing else to do but Breeze, that might help us free up through coordination, through distribution of resources and what have you, letting those other subject matter experts return back to their mandates. of licensing, of enforcement, of the application process, continuing competency, those kind of things. One of the issues in the briefing paper that was brought to us by the consultant was that there were other boards that have dedicated staff, such as the medical board. And while it would have been nice to have had that, we went through Breeze during a time where it was very difficult to obtain staff, to rationalize that kind of thing. And so we shouldered that burden with our existing staff. As far as improvements and advancements, something very basic in the renewal of a license can now be done online instantaneously, where before it would take 2 to 3 weeks to process, another 2 to 3 weeks to receive the renewal in the mail, and so on. A licensee can now log on to the website, pay with a credit card, and their license is renewed instantaneously. And you take that same idea and you apply it across things like name changes and address changes, and it relieves a lot of the administrative burden on staff, but it provides that convenience for the licensee and for the applicants, for that matter.
Okay, so you are realizing some of those efficiencies now.
We are.
Okay, well, thank you. Appreciate that for the update. All right, let's move to issue number 15, and I believe, Senator, you might have had a bill on this last year, which was I know the governor's office had reached out to both of us when we were talking about, was it North Carolina, I believe?
Oh, yeah. We're not going there, are we?
No, I don't think so. I don't think we're going to go into all the details, but it does. But we do have you feel like it's a balanced board, and what we're doing, we have 4 and 3 public members in the profession. And so just know that this is something that I know both committees are looking at, the administration is looking at, and so we look forward to not only just having your input moving forward, but whether or not we look at each of the boards individually or whether we try to do something collectively. Obviously, we all seen what happened out in North Carolina and want to prevent any kind of conflicts or things that are self-serving, I would say. And so it doesn't seem at this time that that's been an issue with your board. And so we appreciate that. And, just moving forward, if you could be very diligent about that, I think that would be the best course of action. With that, I believe, Senator Hill, do you have any questions?
I did have a question, if I could. In looking at kind of the oversight that you provide of the schools that are offering degrees in physical therapy, since the Act requires you to approve those schools' applicants for the licensure that those licensures graduate from, what is your relationship with the Bureau of Private Post-Secondary Education? Do you have one? And my concern is more with looking at your role in approving those schools and making sure that the potential of approving an unaccredited program that may be out there and your exposure to that.
So this board, while it reserves the right to approve those unaccredited schools, has yet to have exercised or been requested to do so. Currently, all the physical therapy and physical therapy assistant education programs in the United States are accredited by CAPTE, or the Commission Accreditation of Physical Therapy Education. And you'll see that they're called out specifically in our statutes as something that we accept. Outside of that, it would be a request by a school for this board to consider whether or not accreditation was appropriate. And again, we have yet to run into that situation.
So do you think would you be inclined to look favorably on a school that was unaccredited?
We're very happy with the CAPTE accreditation and don't see a reason outside of its accreditation process to allow for that. But in the event that the request is made, we would work with BPPE in that event.
Okay. And what efforts do you take to ensure consumers can easily access board disciplinary action in kind of plain speaking, simple English and language?
Sure. The agenda and the minutes for every one of our quarterly board meetings includes all of the discipline that was conducted since the last board meeting. And those can be found online, downloaded. They can also receive them as interested parties on our mailing list, and so they can receive them by simply signing up through email and see this time compared to last time, or the last board meeting, how many PTs, how many PTAs have had any kind of sanctions against their license.
And that's in Breeze, you're doing that now?
That's beside Breeze.
by the PT's name and however it's defined?
Correct.
Okay, good. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let me turn it to members on the dais for questions. Senator Newman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question for Mr. Kaiser. On Breeze expenditures on page 7 of your background report, when you go out to FY 17, 18, 18, 19, fiscal year 19, 20 shows you have a significant decline in your costs. What accounts for that decline? What's the assumption?
That we've basically paid off our investment in development at that point. So again, we've only had Breeze for just over a year. We're still paying the cost of putting the system together. And so those costs are going to lessen over time, and the only thing that would remain would be maintenance costs.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. Senator Penn.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation. I just wanted to touch briefly on issue number 5, treatment plans for children covered under IDEA. So I know that you're looking into that as someone who also takes care of children who, particularly with special needs. And in fact, we have a select committee on children with special needs be very interested in being kept apprised of progress there. We want to be sure those children get access to the treatment they need and the things that are in their special ed plans. So be very interested in knowing how the discussions are going.
Absolutely.
And then I guess the second issue, I know on issue 15, people are looking at this, and I appreciate your perspective. I do find it interesting that the FTC suggested that even a single professional member could be a controlling majority. In fact, I think that would be an argument to having more professional members because, of course, if you only have one, then that one person's opinion may seem to represent the entire profession. And I point out that each one of the members of the board is actually appointed not by the professional society, not by, but by the governor or some other elected official who should, of course, be reviewing all the potential conflicts, and of course, there should be conflict of interest policies. So in my mind, I think the balance on your board seems to be very appropriate, and that what we want is diversity of perspectives, but also the knowledge and expertise to be able to inform the staff and to inform the proceedings so that the board can be effective. So I realize it's something we're looking at, but I'd also point out that now I haven't sat on board, I've sat on some accreditation bodies. You're getting $100 per meeting, but there's a lot of work attached to it. I mean, this is not something people do because of the money. It's obviously a lot of work and requires a lot of due diligence. And certainly it's a position of great responsibility. So I know that how challenging it can be also to recruit people who can put in the kind of work that's necessary to make the board function well. So I think that that's something else also that's needed to be kept in mind, in addition to the expertise that they need to bring in this field. So whether it's a specific field or also in terms of oversight. So thank you.
Other questions of committee members? Seeing none, I would like to invite members of the public who would like to come forward and testify before the committee. Seeing no one there, then thank you very much for your testimony and for the certainly the good work that you do. Thank you.